The professor smirked at the audience. Funk music? It's rhythmic chaos for people who can't appreciate real composition. Then a voice from the back row said, "May I respond to that?" No one recognized him. Yet, Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, Los Angeles Music Center, Sunday afternoon, April 2013, 3:20 p.m. The Grand Concert Hall hosted a panel discussion, The Evolution of American Music. On stage sat three people, Dr. Harrison Fitzgerald, Sex Og Tretio, Yale music professor, classical purist, condescending, Dr. Elena Vasquez, Fertito, UCLA, ethnomusicology, open-minded, James Chen, Tretiote, A Times music critic, moderator. The audience, 300-plus people. Mostly older classical music enthusiasts, music students, a few curious jazz fans. A man walked in late. Simple black suit, perfectly tailored but understated. White shirt, no tie. Purple pocket square, dark sunglasses, natural afro. He slipped into a back row seat. No one noticed, just another attendee. On stage, Dr. Fitzgerald was mid-rant. And this is why contemporary pop music is destroying musical literacy. Funk, rap, electronic music, these aren't compositions. They're repetitive loops designed for dancing, not listening. No harmonic complexity, no counterpoint, just primitive rhythms and— Dr. Vasquez interrupted. "Harrison, that's reductive. Funk music has incredible rhythmic sophistication." Fitzgerald waved her off. "Elena, please. I've analyzed James Brown, George Clinton, Sly Stone. It's all the same. 4-bar loops, 1-chord vamps. A child could reproduce it on a keyboard." Some audience members shifted uncomfortably. Music students looked annoyed. James tried to intervene. "Dr. Fitzgerald, many would argue that funk revolutionized. Many would be wrong. Funk is to music what graffiti is to art. Loud, garish, primitive. It requires no training, no discipline, no mastery. Compare that to Mozart, Beethoven, Stravinsky." The man in the back row removed his sunglasses. He raised his hand. James saw him. "Yes? Question from the audience?" The man stood, his voice quiet, calm. "May I respond to that?" Fitzgerald looked annoyed. "Sir, this is a scholarly panel, not an open mic." James recognized him. His eyes went wide. He stammered, Yes, please. Come to the microphone." The man walked down the aisle, slowly. Every step measured. The audience started whispering. A few pulled out phones. Fitzgerald, oblivious, sighed. "Fine, let's hear from the funk defender." The man reached the stage, stood at the microphone, didn't introduce himself. "You said funk is primitive, that it requires no mastery." Fitzgerald, correct. "And that a child could reproduce it on a keyboard." "I did say that, yes." The man nodded, turned to James. "Is that piano functional?" He pointed to the Steinway Model D grand piano on stage. 9-foot concert grand, worth $200,000 plus. James, excited. Yes, it is." "May I?" The audience erupted in whispers. Dr. Vasquez was grinning. She knew who he was. Fitzgerald, confused. "What is happening?" Vasquez leaned over. "Harrison, that's Prince." "Prince who?" "Prince Rogers Nelson." Fitzgerald's face went white. Prince sat at the piano. He didn't adjust the bench, didn't stretch, just placed his hands on the keys. He looked at Fitzgerald. "I'm going to play something. You tell me if it's primitive." Then he played. He started with a melody, but not the simple version. He deconstructed it into classical composition. First 30 seconds, Baroque-style fugue, counterpoint weaving through itself like Bach. Next 45 seconds, Romantic-era arpeggios, runs that would make Chopin proud. Then jazz harmonies, chord voicings like Bill Evans. Then funk, the original groove, but now you heard it differently. He was proving that funk contained all these elements, not primitive. Synthesis. The audience was silent. Dr. Fitzgerald's mouth hung open. Then Prince shifted. He played another piece, arranged like a Rachmaninoff concerto. Sweeping, dramatic, orchestral in scope. By the second section, people were crying. A music student in the front row, 19 years old, whispered to her friend, "Holy shit! He just proved funk is harder than classical." Prince finished. 4 minutes, 12 seconds total. The final chord hung in the air. 5 seconds of silence. Then, standing ovation. All 300 people, screaming, crying, phones recording. Dr. Fitzgerald was standing too, but he wasn't applauding, just staring. Prince stood, walked back to the microphone, his voice still quiet. "Funk isn't primitive, Dr. Fitzgerald, it's efficient. We don't use 47 instruments when one groove can say everything. That's not laziness, that's mastery." He adjusted his purple pocket square. "I've written over 1,000 songs, and I can play 27 instruments. How many can you play?" Fitzgerald stammering. Piano and..." "One. You play one instrument, and you just called my music primitive." The audience gasped. Dr. Vasquez was trying not to laugh. Prince nodded to James. "Thank you for the piano." He walked off stage, headed toward the exit. James ran after him. "Prince, wait! Would you stay for the rest of the panel?" "No, thank you. I proved my point." He left. The Dorothy Chandler Pavilion was in chaos. Students chanting, "Prince, Prince." Dr. Fitzgerald sitting in his chair, head in his hands. 2 hours later, Dr. Fitzgerald sat alone in his Yale office, staring at his computer. YouTube, Prince destroys classical music snob at L.A. Concert Hall. Views, 487,000 and climbing. Comments were brutal. "Old man got humbled. This is what happens when you disrespect a genius. Prince just gave a free masterclass in music theory." Fitzgerald closed his laptop, put his head in his hands. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but he did. "Hello? Dr. Fitzgerald? It's Prince." Silence. "How did you get this number?" "Doesn't matter. I wanted to call because I think I was too harsh." Fitzgerald blinked. "You were too harsh? I'm the one who insulted your entire genre." "Yeah, but you didn't know better, and I embarrassed you publicly. That wasn't right." Fitzgerald's voice cracked. "Why are you calling me?" "Because I don't want you to hate music. I want you to expand your understanding of it." Prince paused. "Here's what I'm proposing. Come to Paisley Park. Spend 3 days with me. I'll show you how funk is built. The theory, the rhythm, the soul. And you can teach me more about classical composition. Trade knowledge." Fitzgerald. You want to learn from me? After what I said? "I always want to learn. That's why I'm still good." Fitzgerald was silent for a long moment. "When?" "Next month. I'll have my assistant send details." "Prince, why are you doing this?" Prince's voice was gentle. "Because music is bigger than both of us, and because you spent 40 years studying something you love. That deserves respect. Even when you're wrong." The call ended. Fitzgerald sat there, phone in hand, staring at nothing. For the first time in decades, he felt like a student again, and it felt good. May 2013, Paisley Park, Chanhassen, Minnesota. Dr. Harrison Fitzgerald stood in the lobby, hands shaking, 40 years teaching at Yale, 6 books published. But right now he felt like a freshman. Prince appeared, jeans, purple t-shirt, barefoot. "Doctor?" "Fitzgerald, welcome." For 3 days Fitzgerald watched Prince compose, not primitive loops, architecture. Prince would build bass lines, add drums, keys, horns, structure from rhythm. On the second day, Prince played a piece he'd written the night before. "What do you hear?" Fitzgerald listened. "It's a fugue, inverted bass, counter-subject in..." "Is that retrograde?" Prince smiled. "You hear it, but this is funk. How are you using Bach?" "Because Bach understood rhythm, same as James Brown, same language, different dialects." Fitzgerald sat down. "I've been teaching wrong for 40 years. Prince shook his head. You taught classical right. You just didn't know there were other kinds of right. On the third day, Prince asked Fitzgerald to teach him about Stravinsky's orchestration. They spent 6 hours at a piano, Fitzgerald explaining, Prince absorbing. At one point, Prince played The Rite of Spring from memory, perfectly. When did you learn that? Last night. You mentioned it. I wanted to understand. Fitzgerald stared. You learned Stravinsky overnight? Music is music. Once you understand grammar, you can speak any dialect. Final evening, they sat in Studio A. Why did you invite me? Fitzgerald asked. Prince was quiet. Because you're a teacher. If you teach that funk is primitive, hundreds of kids learn to dismiss an entire genre. That's not just wrong. It's dangerous. Fitzgerald nodded. I owe you a public apology. You owe your students the truth. That's all I want. October 2013, the Yale Music Review published an article, I Was Wrong About Funk, A Classical Musician's Confession, by Dr. Harrison Fitzgerald. Last April, I made a fool of myself by calling funk music primitive. Then Prince Rogers Nelson sat at a piano and taught me more about music in 4 minutes than I'd learned in 40 years of academic study. I spent 3 days at Paisley Park. I watched him compose, arrange, and produce. What I witnessed was not noise, it was architecture, rhythm as structure, groove as narrative. Funk doesn't use fewer tools because it lacks sophistication. It uses fewer tools because it has achieved efficiency, like a haiku compared to an epic poem. Both are literature. Both require mastery. I owe Prince an apology. And I owe my students a better education. The article went viral. 200,000 shares in a week. Fitzgerald's colleagues at Yale were split. Some praised his honesty. Others thought he'd sold out to pop culture. He didn't care. He restructured his entire curriculum, added a semester on American funk and R&B, invited session musicians from Motown to guest lecture. His students noticed the change immediately. Professor Fitzgerald is actually cool now, one student whispered. He played us Prince in class and explained the music theory. It was insane. 3 years passed. April 21st, 2016, the news broke. Prince Rogers Nelson, dead at 57. Fitzgerald was teaching a class when his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. CNN alert. His face went white. Class dismissed, he said quietly. The students knew something was wrong. They filed out silently. Fitzgerald sat at his desk, staring at the wall. He'd lost a teacher, a friend, a bridge to a world he'd almost dismissed forever. 2 weeks later, Paisley Park announced a public memorial. Fitzgerald made a decision. He gathered his Yale University choir, 40 students, best vocalists in the program. We're going to Minnesota, he told them, and we're going to honor someone who changed my life. He spent 2 weeks arranging an a cappella version of Purple Rain, using everything Prince had taught him. The architecture, the rhythm, the soul, classical techniques serving funk, not replacing it, serving it. May 2016, Paisley Park Memorial. Fitzgerald and the Yale Choir stood on stage, 40 voices, no instruments. They sang. The arrangement started classical, Gregorian chant style, building, then it shifted, syncopated rhythms, gospel harmonies, the funk emerging from within the classical structure. By the final chorus, 2,000 people in attendance were crying. When they finished, the silence lasted 10 seconds, then the applause. Not polite, thunderous. Someone uploaded the performance to YouTube that night. Yale Classical Choir performs Prince's Purple Rain, most beautiful tribute ever. 12 million views in 3 days. Comments poured in. This is how you honor a legend. Classical meets funk. Prince would have loved this. The professor learned respect. Fitzgerald read every comment, cried through most of them. One comment stood out. I was at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in 2013 when Prince played the piano. I saw Dr. Fitzgerald's face that day, and now I see this. This is what growth looks like. This is what humility sounds like. That night, Fitzgerald sat alone in his hotel room in Minnesota. He pulled out his phone, opened his notes app, started writing. Not an article, a letter. Dear Prince, you'll never read this, but I need to write it. 3 years ago, you could have destroyed me. Publicly, permanently. I gave you every reason to. Instead, you called me, invited me to your home, taught me, treated me like a colleague, like someone worth educating. I've taught music for 40 years. I thought I knew what mastery looked like. Then I watched you build a song from nothing in 20 minutes, using primitive funk, creating something that made me weep. Today, my choir sang your song. I arranged it using techniques you taught me. Classical structure serving funk soul. You didn't just change my mind about music. You changed my mind about humility, about learning, about admitting when you're wrong. Thank you for the 3 days. Thank you for the phone call. Thank you for seeing a stubborn old man and deciding he was worth saving. I'll spend the rest of my career making sure your music is understood, not as pop, not as primitive, but as what it is. Mastery. Rest well, teacher. Harrison. He never sent the letter. Just kept it in his notes app, but he read it every April 21st. Every year. 5 years later, 2021, Fitzgerald retired from Yale. His final lecture, What Prince Taught Me About Music, standing room only, 500 students. He played the Dorothy Chandler video, then the Yale Choir tribute. Then he said, I spent 40 years thinking music was about complexity. Prince taught me it's about connection, about saying everything with the perfect amount. That's not primitive, that's enlightenment. The audience stood, applauded. Afterward, a young student approached. Professor, why did Prince help someone who disrespected him? Fitzgerald smiled. Because he understood music isn't a competition. It's a conversation. And conversations require listening, even to people who are wrong. I want to be like that. Then learn everything. Classical, funk, jazz, all of it. Don't dismiss anything until you understand it. The student left. Fitzgerald packed his things. In his bag, a purple pocket square, the one Prince had given him at Paisley Park. He'd worn it to every lecture for 7 years. So students know, Prince had said, that classical and funk can exist in the same space, in the same heart. Fitzgerald touched it, smiled. A student forever.